The night shift at Thailand's General Hospital. It was just another night shift for Dr. Michael at Thailand's General Hospital. He was used to the quiet and stillness of the halls as he made his rounds, checking on patients and making notes in their charts. But tonight felt different. There was an unease in the air that he couldn't quite put his fingers on. As he walked down the dimly lit corridor, he heard a strange noise coming from one of the rooms. He approached slowly, peeking inside to see if everything was okay. The room was empty, but the noise continued, a low humming sound that seemed to be coming from the walls. Michael frowned, making a mental note to check the electrical wiring in the morning. He continued his rounds, but the humming only grew louder. He followed the sound to a dark, forgotten corner of the hospital where he found a door that was slightly ajar. Curiosity getting the better of him, Michael pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was large, filled with rows of cabinets and shelves. The humming sound was coming from the back of the room, and as Michael approached, he realized that there was a light shining from behind a stack of boxes. He cautiously made his way over and peered behind the boxes. What he saw there shocked him to his core. There was a young woman lying on a gurney, wires and tubes connected to her body. She was hooked up to a machine that was flashing and beeping, and Michael couldn't believe his eyes. He had never seen anything like it before. He approached the woman, noticing that her chest was rising and falling with shallow breaths. He reached out to touch her, but before his hand made contact, the machine suddenly shut off. The room was plunged into darkness, and Michael heard a low growl coming from somewhere in the shadows. He stumbled back, fear gripping him as the growl grew louder. He turned to run, but something grabbed his leg, tripping him. He fell to the ground, hitting his head on a nearby shelf. As he lay there, unable to move, the growling grew closer. He felt hot breath on his neck and then, nothing. Michael awoke hours later, groggy and disoriented. He was lying on the floor of the room, surrounded by shadows. The machine was back on, and the woman was still hooked up to it, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. But something was different. The wires and tubes that had been connected to her were now connected to him. He tried to stand but found that he was unable to move. Panic set in as he realized that he was now a part of the experiment. The machine was monitoring his every move, measuring his every thought and emotion. He was trapped, unable to escape the hospital and the twisted science that was being conducted within its walls. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Michael was a prisoner in the room, unable to move or speak. He was at the mercy of the scientists who were conducting the experiment, their cruel and sadistic methods pushing him to the brink of insanity. And then, one day, something changed. The machine that had been monitoring him began to malfunction, its flashing lights growing more erratic. Michael felt a surge of hope, thinking that this might be his chance to escape. He mustered all of his strength, breaking free from the tubes and wires that had been keeping him captive. He stumbled to the door, pushing it open and running down the dark hallway. He didn't stop until he reached the main entrance, bursting through the doors and into the warm Thai night. Dr. Michael had thought that he had finally escaped the horrors of the hospital in Thailand, but he was far from free. The voices in his head grew louder and more persistent each day, constantly tormenting him with their ethereal whispers and causing him to see strange and frightening things. His once bright and cheerful demeanor was replaced with a haunted and disturbed demeanor. Desperate for help, Dr. Michael sought out an old Thai lady who was known to treat paranormal patients. The lady lived deep in the Thai jungle and was said to possess the power to cure even the most haunted and troubled of souls. Dr. Michael journeyed deep into the jungle, through thick, tangled vines and over treacherous paths, until he finally arrived at the small hut where the old lady lived. The old lady listened carefully to Dr. Michael's tale of terror, and she nodded sagely as he spoke. She told him that she would be able to help him, but that the cure would not be easy. She would have to perform an ancient Thai ritual that would free him from his suffering, but it would be a dangerous and painful process. Dr. Michael was willing to try anything, and he agreed to undergo the ritual. The old lady led him to a small room in the back of her hut, where she began to chant and make offerings to the spirits. The room was filled with incense smoke and the flickering light of candles, and the air was thick with an eerie energy. For hours, the old lady performed the ritual, her voice rising and falling in a haunting melody that seemed to come from another world. Dr. Michael felt his body convulsing and his mind being pulled in different directions as the spirits were called forth. He felt as though he was being torn apart, and the pain was unbearable. Just as he thought he could take no more, the ritual came to a sudden end. The old lady sat back, her eyes shining with a fierce intensity, and she told Dr. Michael that he was now free. The voices in his head had been silenced, and he would no longer be tormented by the strange and frightening visions. But Dr. Michael's relief was short-lived. As he turned to leave the room, he was horrified to see that the old lady had disappeared, and in her place was a figure shrouded in shadows. The figure beckoned to him, and Dr. Michael felt an overwhelming urge to follow. He walked forward, drawn by an unseen force, until he was suddenly enveloped in darkness. When Dr. Michael emerged from the room, he was no longer in the old lady's hut. He was in a place that he did not recognize, a place that was dark and eerie and filled with an energy that made his skin crawl. He looked around, trying to find some sign of the old lady, but she was nowhere to be found. Days passed, and Dr. Michael was never seen or heard from again. The old lady's hut was abandoned, and the jungle slowly began to reclaim it. Neighbors reported strange and eerie energy coming from the building, and no one dared to enter it. Years went by, and the story of Dr. Michael and the old Thai lady became the stuff of legend. People whispered that they had both been taken by the spirits, and that the hut was now a place of evil and darkness. The hospital in Thailand, where Dr. Michael had once worked, was also abandoned, and it too became a place of eerie energy and strange happenings. And so to this day, the abandoned hospital stands tall, a dark reminder of the horrors that took place within its walls, and the fate of Dr. Michael and the old Thai lady remains a mystery, leaving those who dare to venture near the building to wonder if the eerie energy still lingers and if the spirits of the lost still roam its halls, waiting for their next unsuspecting victim.